Hello there, welcome to the Learning Pro Live. My name's Cath Ellis, and today we are going to talk about designing or getting started designing web experiences. And for this topic, like I do every topic, I think about who is the one person that I would really love to speak to about this topic. And it was Kristin Anthony. Hi, Kristin, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well, Cath. How are you?
Oh, really good. I'm actually really thankful today is Friday. Even though I feel like the weeks are flying while we're in lockdown right now.
Yeah.
I was like, Friday already? Yeah, doing really well. I've just introduced the segment, and I basically just said, I was thinking about who I'd love to talk to about this particular topic, and it was you. And do you want to introduce yourself to everyone who's tuning in or watching this?
Absolutely. So I'm Kristin. I am a instructional technologist or learning technologist, and I currently work at Amazon. And I like to think of that in my current role as a mix between front-end engineer, game developer, and learning experience designer. So it's really at the intersection of a lot of things that I feel like I've been going towards in my almost 8-year career in the learning space. And right now, what I do is to build web experiences in the learning space. So we build a lot of custom simulations of internal tools and try to measure their success and work very closely with partner teams in order to figure out what is it that our learners need and how can we do those things in really scalable ways.
Wow, that sounds really exciting. And I think a dream for a lot of people. They go,
Yeah.
I'd love to be doing that kind of work. Now, I've been following you for years now, and I've always thought I was a nerd, right, Kristin? I was always thinking that I was a nerd. But I kind of put you on a pedestal of super nerd, right? But what I love about you is just how you're always introducing new tools. You see a new tool that's out there, you get on out there, you learn it, and then you showcase it in one way or another. And we've got a couple of messages. We've got Caitlin who's giving you some waves. And she's, simulations.
Yeah.
Let us know, guys, where you're tuning in from, by the way. We've got quite a few viewers, so let us know where you're tuning in from. Do you know Kristin? Do you love her work as much as I do? Give her some love, okay? So, yeah, I've always loved kind of going on your website and seeing your little, seeing your, the kind of micro tools that you've created. Have you been able to take that skill set into Amazon? Is that the same kind of tools that you're using, or are you using a certain, like, I know that you use, I'm going to get it wrong. I know you've done Unity before, and what are some of the tools that you're working with at Amazon to do the dev work? Because it's certainly not authoring tools, is it?
No, it isn't. Although I will say, I started at Amazon as a learning experience designer, and we were absolutely using authoring tools in those positions. But right now on the team I'm on, we are actually doing web development from the ground up. So I would say that a lot of the things that I have been able to learn through, for example, contributing to open source, through trying to create projects on my own and really focusing on the web development piece, are things that I'm taking into this position. And it's also, I think, a lot of the skill set that I was hired for specifically is that I had these web dev chops to go above and beyond authoring tools. And I always try to be really clear that there's nothing wrong with authoring tools. One of the things that they do extremely well is to democratize doing really cool stuff. But I had really formative experiences early on in my career that made me think about a couple of things. Number one is sustainability. What happens if the authoring tool, heaven forbid, goes belly up? Can you take that work and do what you need to do with it? or would
Yeah.
you have to recreate it from scratch? And then the other thing is just being thoughtful about your tech stack. You know, I think it's easy to just say, this is a tool, we're gonna use it, we're gonna make it do whatever we want to do, when sometimes the right thing to do is to think about what is the right tool for the job. And so in the space that I'm in right now, we're actually doing web development from the ground up. So we're using things like React, we're using Node.js, we're using a lot of Amazon Web Services, so things like Lambda, step functions, all that good stuff, in order to create things that are scalable across big populations and can be, but would also keep the level of effort down for our partners who we want to empower them to build, for example, a simulation on their own, and kind of it automatically populates the thing that we've built. So we have to bring all of those pieces together. So that's what we do, and it is not in authoring tools, no.
No. Yeah. So React and Node and these things are way beyond my capability. Yeah. So you've got a real you've got a really unique skill set. And with the learning, I can see why Amazon were absolutely they'd probably be absolutely chuffed when your resume came across the table, because you could bring so much to to the business. What about you mentioned about you obviously create the experience and then you have to measure the success of that. Is that again something that you're using through AWS to do that? Or is it through, tell us a little bit about the process of that.
Yeah, so I think as a team, one of the really awesome things about my team is that we are all from unconventional backgrounds. A lot of my team has actually become learning technologists from associates. So people who, think about people who have been in call centers, and they had a program that allowed them to learn about computer science and web development inside of Amazon, and then they were able to come into this team, and I was able to come into this team from a learning experience designer role. And so I think we're really new to trying to measure things, but what we are trying to use is XAPI.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, I think we might have a learning record store somewhere, but suffice it to say that we haven't done a lot. And so we're thinking deeply about what does that need to look like? And one of the things that I think of as my superpower, and that's one of the awesome things that I've been learning about myself at Amazon, is like, what is Kristin really good at? And documentation is like, it's my thing. It's my thing. And so I'm like, before we just make stuff, can we think deeply about what do our XAPI statements need to look like? Can we document them? And can we make sure that we have a consistent vocabulary across all the things that we're doing? And so that's stuff that we are still kind of in the process of making happen, I think, right now.
Yeah. And AWS, I mean, I think I put a learning record store, learning locker on AWS. So I could see how all of this stuff kind of works so seamlessly together, especially with open source tools like that. You're getting lots of love here. And you've got, Caitlin saying, I'm looking at my board because Gemini is Caitlin, and I know I've got her written on my board because she tunes in quite a lot. She says,
awesome.
I've been trying to create more immersive simulations, looking forward to learning more. And Danielle says, hi, Kristin, super fan here, getting into code because of you. And then someone switching to YouTube. So, so as far as getting started, so you started in this industry. Only 8 years ago. I feel like I've known about you for 8 years. You were
Yeah.
probably right onto this straight away. Um, tell us a little bit about kind of how you got started. Were you always in web development? Did you always tinker in this space? Or did you come in as a learning designer, do the authoring tools first, and then branch into creating web experiences? And where did you start? And where would you encourage people to start if they are thinking about looking further than authoring tools?
Sure. So I'll start by saying that I took basic web development in high school. And then, you and I were talking about a little bit before the show started, like, if you could do it all over again, what would you do? And I think sometimes, and my dad would probably say, I told you so, because he wanted me to have a computer science degree. And I went
Yeah.
to a small women's liberal arts college. I don't regret it because I got to spend a year in England and geek out about Jane Austen. But um, I might have, although I think the benefit of the super roundabout way that I got here is that I got a lot of support with women and people of color and other folks where I've been kind of the only me in a lot of spaces, but there's a larger community where I didn't feel quite so isolated. And I feel like if I had gone straight computer science, some of that stereotype threat might have kicked in, and I might not even have made it this far. So I'm really grateful for the roundabout path. But so I started out with that high school class, and it was interesting. But I didn't really do anything with it. I was supposed to be Dr. Anthony, professor of English by this point, and that didn't happen. I left school, couldn't really find a job, so I went to library school and got my master's in library and information science, thinking that this is a set of skills that would actually make me hireable. But while I was there, the first semester, I thought, oh, I've made a terrible mistake. I hate this, but I didn't want to quit. And so I was telling myself, you got to find something to love. You got to find that something that latch onto. And it ended up being web development. During that time, things like Drupal and WordPress and Joomla were really starting to get big. And so I made all of these projects making websites for libraries, and I helped with the library school's open source journal. And then I helped with one of the professors, he had a journal. And so I started doing all of this web development. And then there's a lot of stuff that happened in the middle. But after all of that happened, I got my first instructional design job. And before that, I had been on an instructional technology team in a institution in the state of Texas that helped teachers with professional development, among other things. And so I really started to get back into code and trying to learn to code, but I couldn't figure out how to apply it to my day job. So it was always just tinkering. And I would go in and I would figure something out and then I would forget it because I wasn't applying it consistently. And it really wasn't until that first instructional design job where I was using Lectora that I found out that with Lectora, there were a lot of people who were doing really interesting things by integrating JavaScript. And I said, I want to be one of those people.
Yeah.
And Free Code Camp was coming out at the same time and really starting to market themselves. And so I was able to complete their lessons, which were, they started with jQuery at the time. That curriculum has undergone massive changes and iterations, but they had a lot of jQuery stuff at the time. And so I was able to take that and then go to my day job and say, here's a thing we can do if we add Lectora and JavaScript. So like the best example I have is that in that job, we actually worked with law enforcement and security and trained them. And one of the courses that I was working on was for learning how to read fingerprints and actually analyze them. And one of the things that the subject matter experts said was, really the best way to do this is to do this process called tracing. And I thought, well, how might we help people to do that? And because of all this practice that I'd been doing offline in my own time, I was able to say, oh, there's a jQuery plugin to help people write on the screen. And so I was able to implement this in like 2 or 3 hours, where we had this vital piece that all of our reviewers were saying, we really need to be able to do this practice. I was able to add this vital piece where people could trace the fingerprints on the screen and therefore get that practice. And so that was really, I think, the key for me. And so that was a lot of words. But if I sum it up, it would be Free Code Camp is absolutely a great place to get started. Now, it's JavaScript focused, but I think that makes a lot of sense for learning experience design because, as Joseph Suarez said on Dear Instructional Designer years ago, we are all web developers. It's just that most of the time we do web development with really specific specialized tools called authoring tools, but we're web developers. And so understanding how the web works and how front-end web development works makes a ton of sense. And that's where JavaScript, HTML, and CSS are going to come in. And that's where Free Code Camp is really good because it's a extraordinarily well done curriculum that's going to hold your hand from I know nothing to I can build websites. So that's a great place to get started. And then the other thing is you have to practice because otherwise it goes in one ear, it goes out the other ear, and you're never going to actually get good.
Yeah. Well, that was great. And I love hearing about your background and of how you came through. I mean, it's really interesting you say that because I'm a lot older than you, Kristin, but I had a Spectrum ZX as a kid. I don't know if you know what that is, but it was a British computer. It was one of the very first, well, it wasn't the very first computer, I mean, for God's sake, but it was a very early iteration of a computer. And, as a kid, I'd be given like a book that you'd type a load of pages and then it would create a game. It was just typing code. Don't even know what code. And I've always been, so I kind of went into hospitality and then came through training that way. I was working for Carnival Cruise Lines as a purser, and actually they hired me in the corporate training department, and because I was good at training other pursers, and that's how I came through. But I was always very curious in creating little digital experiences. And I can remember at uni, so I went through uni in 92, 93. And I created a website. And at that time it was pure, there was no CSS, it was pure, if you wanted to make something yellow, you had to, and an H1 tag, you had to write that whole line of code. Mm-hmm. And then obviously CSS came in. So I understand myself CSS, I understand HTML and JavaScript a little bit, not mm-hmm. very much. And I always say to people, I'd really encourage you to at very least learn CSS, HTML, and if you can learn JavaScript. So that's great advice. And the place that you mentioned, the Code Camp, mm-hmm. is that still running? Is that something that's...
Yes.
So I'll put the link to Code Camp here, guys, so you can check it out yourself. I mean, I use Treehouse as well. There's there's so many resources and just YouTube. And even if you're in a world of authoring tools, get on to Articulate Heroes, for example, and start looking at JavaScript examples and start trying to apply them. It'll start getting you thinking a little bit about, like you did, about how you can start talking to the outside the authoring tool, pulling variables in and things like that. Now, I might show your website actually. Do you mind?
Yeah, no problem.
All right, but before I do that, I'll give you some love. So we've got Ashanti, and she said it was me who switched from LinkedIn. Oh, very good, Ashanti. She said Kristin is definitely goals. I'm still learning the basics. Okay, so how would you recommend someone with no coding experience to start branching into this? Okay, so I think we might have covered some of that. Oh, so Shanti's using Lectora as well. So Danielle said, I've started with free code camp as well as binged on Devlin Peck's everything. And here's Devlin Peck. Hi, friends. Hope I'm not too late. Excited for this.
Hi, Devlin.
And here she just lives around the corner from me. She's a friend who did my master's with her. She's obviously tagging people in. Tech Talent South offers free Java immersion courses for beginners. Cool. And Devlin saying free code camp is great. That's where I learned JavaScript. There you go. All comes from Kristin Anthony. I'm just going to bring up your website and share it. Because I love that. And I try to say this with people all the time. You know, if you've got experiences that you're creating, they don't have to be learning related. They can be anything. Just showcase your skills.
Yeah.
I'm just going to turn this banner off so we can see. So this is your website, and you've chunked it down with web development. And you've got learning experience design. And then this is what I love. I go down here and have a look. Your learning experience design resources. And I love looking at these little tools that you've created, Kristin. I should have probably got you to share it so you could take the lead and walk through. But when you're thinking about creating, and actually we should show the experience. I can't believe this phone is ringing. This phone, every time I do a podcast, it rings.
Hi, if you call for availability,
Excuse me.
our number.
I'm back. My apologies.
No problem.
It happens every time. So when you're thinking about creating an experience, so Melissa Milloway shared a great experience that you did recently.
Mm-hmm.
I should get you to share that in a minute, and you can kind of walk it through. But some of these examples, like the go design something. So this is built in React.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you start with something like this? So if you've got people in the audience who are, they're obviously, you're going to inspire a lot of people to try going out there and creating different experiences. If there's something like, if there's, I'm not articulating myself very well. If someone does, if they are inspired to try going out and creating a different kind of experience, where would you maybe start? Is React? React is something that I think Devlin works in as well. It's but tell us a little bit about this experience, for example, and tell us about your workflow, how you got started with something like this.
So this was at least a multi-month project, possibly even several years, and it underwent several iterations. But I think the thing that's probably really important is that I wanted to do something that solved a problem.
Yeah.
And I think all of my LXD resources are kind of coming out of the fact that as a newbie, I felt like, you had all of these people who had 20 or so years of experience, and they were saying things that were good things, but they felt completely disconnected from my reality. It felt like, and I don't think this was the intention, but this was kind of the impact that it had on me, was that it felt like there were all these thou shalt and thou shalt nots. And I'm over here like, okay, I'm in year one of my instructional design career. I can't tell them, hey, you're doing it wrong, or hey, I'm not going to do this project. I have to be able to do the best I can with what they're handing down to me. I mean, I remember I made a course with a textbook and a syllabus. Like, that's what I had. I had no SME. I didn't get to say, whoa, I'm not going to do this because I need to consult with somebody. That was the assignment. You get a textbook and the syllabus, make a course. And I didn't have any opportunity to say no to that. And so I think a lot of the tools were coming out of me reacting to what felt like just this dearth of resources around the newbie experience. And then the other thing that happened is that as I became more experienced myself, I started to look at some of the kind of portfolio pieces that were out there, or portfolio idea generators that were out there. And I'm going to steal from something I heard recently. They felt like toys, right? They weren't solving problems. And it was hard for me to say, I could take this idea and make a portfolio piece that would actually speak to a client or a potential employer and say, look, I can help you solve your problems. Now, there's nothing wrong with making toys. Toys are fun, toys and games, but they don't necessarily do a great job in your portfolio of helping people to understand the value that you can provide. And so Go Design Something was something that I had been planning, and I'm thinking about, like, I did several blog posts on this because, again, it went through several iterations, but I wanted to do something that was like some of those other brief generator things that happen in the broader design community. So the people who are doing like visual design, they had these great brief generators that were based on like real client projects, and would help someone who was trying to create a portfolio piece to figure out, here's the problem that you're trying to solve, and then here are some things to go and look at for inspiration. Here's the brief. Now, take it and do something with it. And that felt much more useful than the idea of kind of making these toys. And so that's what I wanted to make with this. And it started out with something that I created in WordPress. I got in trouble because I was trying to emulate somebody else's website, and they were like, don't do that. So I said, okay, I won't. And then I made something really simple in Angular, which is another JavaScript framework. And I started in Angular because at the time I was doing more JavaScript practice, and I was actually contributing to an open source project. And that was what it was built in, Angular. So I was learning Angular. But then I think maybe just earlier this year, someone mentioned that it was kind of looking a little broken. And so I remade it quickly in React. And so the process was really going from, I see a problem or something that's frustrating me in a space that I care about, and I want to create something for other folks to use. And I wanted to make it simple. And so I don't think I did anything in terms of, I might have done some sketches or something like that, but I definitely did not have, any kind of good UX or UI kind of process here. I was just like, I want to make something simple, and previous iterations had failed. Because I think initially I wanted to create some kind of community around this, and I'm just awful at community building. And so I thought, let's just make something that's just here. And if people can submit a brief, they can, but it's just kind of out here. And I'm not even measuring it. like
Yeah.
how many people go to it. And so I'm constantly surprised by people who are like, oh, my professor in my instructional design program shared this and we're using it there. And that always warms my heart. But I have no idea how many people have used this thing. But it's just out there because I wanted to make something to help other people like me who wanted to do something that felt more meaningful.
Yeah. It's I love it. I love it. And you see, even I like what you said about, it's not just a toy. I mean, if you look in my portfolio, some of the things are just toys. They're silly, stupid, nothing games. I think this has a purpose, and that's why I love it so much. I think about, my skill level. So I certainly am nowhere near going into trying these new tools, but I'm presuming because you were going down that rabbit hole with JavaScript, that's where you came across Angular and you started playing in that tool. And then you've obviously had some experience with React and you've gone that route. Is it just experimentation? Is it just, so how much time do you spend on professional development? Are you just constantly learning new things?
Yes. And so one of my kind of perennial problems is, where should Kristin focus their time? And that is so hard because there's a universe of things to learn. But yes, I do a lot of learning, and I try and fail and keep trying to come up with a kind of a plan of action for myself, or like, this is the thing that you need to focus on for a season. And I think previously, the thing that has served me really well is to think about, what is it that I want to get good at, so that in my day job, when the opportunity comes, I can say, I can do that because I've done it before. So for example, with game development, and specifically using Phaser.js, I like that framework because it allows me to practice game development and JavaScript. And I started on it because I wanted to be able to say in my day job, we want to create a game, and me be able to say, I can do that because I've done it before and I know this framework and I can make it happen quickly, instead of having to, kind of learn on the job. So that has really been my guiding light previously. Right now, I'm definitely feeling again the problem of, okay, now I'm in a role that we are working to be sort of transition into an official front-end engineer role, but I'm still in the learning space. And so I'm like, where does Kristin spend their time? Should I still be looking at learning experience design, or should I be looking just completely at JavaScript? And even there, it's like, there's machine learning and there's AI, and should I be trying to experiment over there? And it's hard. It's hard, but I keep trying.
They're merged. They somewhat merge into one another. As a learning designer, it really, I told you before before the session started, I've just put a bid on a website that I'm going to build for a client, and I actually still feel like a lot of the work that I'm going to do. So that they're a cultural center, an Aboriginal cultural center, and they've got exhibits and different things like that. And I'll actually be able to apply a lot of the things that I've learned over the years in learning design to this website design. I actually feel like and I play around in Alexa, maybe not at a very high level, but I play around developing little skills and things like that. And I think that these terms, that the names that we put to ourselves, they drive us a bit mad, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that learning design, we should, like, I try and encourage people around me, go learn new tools. It's not just this little bubble. You have to think further than that. Have to think outside of that. And I think that's great. Phaser, was that the little bicycle game that you built
Yes.
in Adapt? Right,
Yeah.
that was great. So again, that was a little passion project that you did in Adapt, or was that for a client?
No, that was a portfolio project because I heard about Adapt and it was open source and I wanted to use it.
Yeah. And Kristin built this cute little game in Phaser that basically complement. It was part of the game. They had to complete it as the quiz to move on to the next section. That's really awesome. The little experience, I shouldn't keep saying the little experience, the experience that Melissa shared last week. Do you want to share it and walk everyone through it and maybe talk through
Sure.
the process? While you're bringing that up, I'll put some comments up. So Amanda said, I'm currently stalking your website, Kristin. I'm in a rabbit hole with all your amazing resources. And yeah, so burnout, this is the one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we can talk about burnout twine. We're doing that now. Troy, love to hear about twine. Jackpot. Okay, Devlin, I've limited experience with React. It's a JavaScript library, so you need a good handle on the basics to dive into that. I use a site called Scrimba to do some React courses. Cool, we'll check that out. Troy said, go design something is neat. Okay, yep, agreed. Whole of goodness. Cheyenne said, I feel the same way. I'm in the US, Texas. Thank you for Dear Instructional Designer. Your podcast encouraged me during my first job as an instructional designer. I felt comfortable to not know some things as a newbie and confident in what I was able, in what I would be learning. Yeah, I feel like
That's
a
awesome.
lot of people benefited from Dear Instructional Designer. Is that on hiatus now?
Yeah, it kind of died. I was a freelancer for about 2 years before I got this job. And I'll be transparent and say I did a terrible job freelancing. Mostly because I just kind of hopped into it because I was really excited. There was a former client of mine who wanted to so one of the things that I encourage everybody to do is, like, if you find yourself really passionate about something, tell everybody. And so I did that with web development. I kept saying, I want to do more web development. And so this former client from when I worked at a university reached back out to me and said, hey, we're going to be developing this platform to sell our courses, and we need to build those courses. So would you like to come on and be a freelancer to help us build this platform and help us build the courses? And at the time, I had a job with an enterprise software company. And I tried to be really transparent with them and say, look, this is a great learning opportunity for me. Can I do this part-time? They weren't interested in that. And so I decided to just jump into freelancing. And I really enjoyed the web development part. I really did not enjoy the learning experience design part. And I'll put at least half of that on me. I think I did a terrible job. It was really, really stressful. And so, during all of that, it was really hard for me to keep up with Dear Instructional Designer because I was working all the time and not making enough money while supporting 4 people and 2 dogs. So it was just a lot and a really, really stressful time. I learned a lot, but yeah, I'd say learn from Cath and other people who've done a much better job in terms of the freelancing part. And now, when I go back, I think about starting it up again sometimes, but I'm like, the show space seems to have filled out a lot since I first started it. And so I don't want to add noise, but I love hearing all of these comments from people who have listened to it and whose lives it's touched. And so to me, that says that it did its job. It did its job. So I'm really grateful for that experience.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. I absolutely loved it. I even reached out to you. I said, can I be on your show? And you were like, oh, I'm going to wrap this thing up soon.
Yeah.
Like, damn it. So if you, it's just like Zoom, just clicking down on the bottom, the share screen, and I'll look out for it on my side.
Okay. Is this working?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. I must have shared the wrong thing. Oh, the browser can't access my screen. Nope, it's telling me that the browser can't access my screen.
Oh. Let me see. Are you doing an entire screen application window or Chrome tab?
So I only have StreamYard and entire screen, and I tried entire screen.
And it won't do it?
Yeah, it won't do it.
Okay, so hang on, let me see if I can do it from my side. Might just have to have me drive.
Yeah, that's no problem.
That's okay. Let's bring up Miss Millaway. She's got that much. How many things she shares? Let me see. Just bear with me. Yeah, there was I've spoken about it a few times. It was great. Let's see if we can find this.
I think I can send it to you. I send it to you in chat. See if that works.
Here we go. I got it. I got it. Okay.
Awesome. So I'll tell a little story about how this came about. So I have been at my current job for almost 2 years, and there came a point right after COVID hit where it was like one Sunday, and I just felt like I don't want to go to work. And it wasn't one of those, I don't want to go to work next week. It was, I don't want to go to work ever again. And I knew it wasn't my current team. The people were great, but I was just feeling like I hate what I'm doing. I don't want to do it. And I started thinking about, I need to figure out what is it that I'm feeling and why I'm feeling it. And so for the first time in my life, actually, which seems strange considering what I did for so long, I started thinking about, I need a career coach. And so I reached out to some folks via LinkedIn Professional Finder, I think it is, to find a career coach. And I interviewed only 2 people. The first one, I'll be forever grateful to him because he told me to go and look for other people before I committed. And then I found this second person, a woman named Sheann. And I just, in the kind of consultation with her, I felt so heard and so seen that I started on this journey with her. I think we went like 6 or 7 weeks in terms of sessions. And really what we were able to do over that was to start to think about, what does Kristin need to thrive at work and, you know, as a professional and as a person, and like what is going on right now, which is really what I needed to start think about. And I started thinking about or started being able to articulate, I need to understand the why of something before I can actually do any kind of good work. I need to have the room to ask a lot of questions, and I need to make things. And this is the kind of stuff where possibly people on the outside looking in and said, I could have told you that for free. But it really was being able to, I think, just succinctly articulate all those things. And at the same time that was happening, I was also thinking about sort of re-entering my interest with game development and specifically game writing, because I figured there's always going to be somebody who's better than I am at game development. But no matter what kind of team I'm on, even if I'm someplace where we contract out to do a VR experience, for example, if I can figure out how to write for that kind of experience, then I can contribute and I can add value to that whole process. And so that happened. I found this new job, and I found Anna Sabramowitz's Interactive Storytelling Accelerator. And so all of that kind of mixed together, and I came up with this interactive story idea that I was able to workshop with them around somebody who is experiencing or about to be burnt out. And the reason why that was close to my heart is that I was thinking about all the things with the onboarding to the job that I have right now that I was able to do differently. And it really was, I had all of these ideas, I think, certainly since I came to Amazon, but even before then, I knew some things about the way I wanted to work. But I allowed everyone else to kind of trample over my deep work time. I allowed people to just say, hey, 8 a.m. meeting, 7 a.m. meeting. I'm a night owl. That does not work. But I just said yes to all this stuff without ever realizing that I had the agency in my position of privilege as a white collar tech worker to say, you know what, that doesn't work for me. Can we put this on this day, because those are my scheduled meeting days, and can we do this at a time when I'm actually awake? And so the point of this story is to really help people to understand that while burnout feels really complex, and sometimes the right thing to do is to actually just flee and go find a new job, you still take yourself with you no matter where you're going. And there are a lot of things that, particularly as white collar workers, we have agency over that we don't take advantage of. And then we feel like, oh, I'm doing the same thing every day and I hate it, or this or that. And so I wanted to make it so that Gabby really had a transformation where she found her agency around the things that she could control in terms of her office work. And I built it in Twine. And I did that for a couple of reasons. The first one, really practically, is that I don't have an Articulate subscription, and that's not how I choose to spend my money right now. It doesn't make sense. But then beyond that, it goes back to the things that we were talking about earlier. I want to showcase something that's at the intersection of all the things that I want to be doing in the world, and that includes coding. It includes making things XAPI enabled. And this is also, I think, just a really good demonstration of thinking about your tech stack, right? You don't have to have an Articulate Storyline or a Lectora or whatever other tool. You can use a free and open source tool and make it do what you want it to do and what you need it to do, with the added benefit that if Twine were to ever go away at some point, heaven forbid, I still have all the code I need in order to make any changes or fixes I would ever need to do. And I think that's something that's really powerful. And that's one of the things that I think learning how to code really empowers you to do, is to say, we can make this in such a way that in 10 years and 20 years, this is still a thing that we have complete control over.
Yeah.
And so that is kind of the origin story of Brink of Burnout.
Cool. Love it. I love how you've explained this and introduced it and what it meant for you. We'll take a look. Let's just scroll down. Okay. I'm not reading it out because that's the most annoying thing ever. I'm letting people just read it.
No problem.
All right. I love this. So let's talk a little bit about the process of building this in Twine. I haven't used Twine in quite a long time, but for those of you who haven't seen Twine before, guys, this is kind of how it starts out. And it goes from here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's been a long time since I've used Twine. How much can you customize? How much was this native, and how much was this adding code to it?
Yeah. So most of this was actually a product of HTML and CSS.
Yeah.
So I'll be clear that like Twine, its function is to create interactive fiction. And so it'll basically just give you, it gave me the kind of engine to have something that goes from passage to passage, and also to create a story that branches basically.
Yeah.
But the way it looks is almost entirely the structure that I put on it with HTML and CSS. But the nice thing about what I'm learning about how to build these is that simple really works well. And so I started out by prototyping in Adobe XD.
Yeah.
And then having done the whole, it wasn't a high fidelity prototype, but a, pretty low fidelity prototype where I thought through how much space is the text going to take up, where are the bars going to go, and kind of, if you think about it kind of like a comic book, what are my layouts going to be?
Yeah.
And this story has like I don't know, 3 or 4 different layouts. There's like a full screen image. There's an image and a text. There's like 2 panels with an image, and then there's like 3 panels. And so that's it. And so once I was able to get the structure down, it was copy and paste from panel to panel. And so that really lessened the amount of work. And to be clear, for something like this, you could absolutely do it in Articulate Storyline. There's no reason why you couldn't. But again, I chose Twine for all of the aforementioned reasons. Yeah.
Great. Now, have you guys, let me ask everyone tuning in, have you guys had any experience with Twine? Have you built anything with Twine? Because I know that yourself and Melissa have both built experiences in Twine before. And I think it's just really a fascinating tool, and fascinating as far as the sky's the limit with how you can use it. I've seen some Twine experiences that are incredibly popular that are just text on screen, you know, the power of the story.
Absolutely.
And I've seen others that have obviously added value with the XP points and things like that. So it's great. There's lots of comments here. Let's see what people have got to say. I think I've done Devlin. Cara North. She's a fangirl. I met my now podcasting partner through Dear Instructional Designer. Kristin is a connector. Brittany finally caught up on one of these sessions live. So excited it happened to be this one. I know, it's the best. Working with a career coach helped me to highly recommend. Sonica, that's amazing story, motivation to create something so unique. Devlin, love it. Gemini's amazing. Troy, your story behind the project is very moving, and this project is very unique. Amanda, I've never used Twine before. This is so cool. Have never used Twine before, but I've built branching scenarios. Yes, I've used Twine before. And Sonica, where should someone go to start learning Twine besides just jumping in? And Ashanti said, need to get on Kristin's level. So if someone wants to start down the journey of learning Twine, it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? It's pretty much like you can even plan your branching scenarios through Twine. It's a really good way for you to kind of see it come to life. You can see I've got no example in my Twine account. I don't even know if I'm logged in, but it's free, isn't it?
It's free and open source. Yep.
So it's really about the basics are very simple, but then if someone wants to learn about adding value to it, is it just going on YouTube and doing tutorials? And
there's an incredible YouTube series. The man's first name is Dan. I'm forgetting his last name, but I will go and find it. But he has a series about learning Twine, and it's for this version of Twine, so Twine 2.0. And he's done a great job of taking you through not only the basics, but some of the specifics. And the specifics are kind of based on the story format. So Twine has these different kind of ways that your story can look, and that affects the code that is used, and so that also affects how you build things in Twine. But I'd agree with you, Cath, that the basics are super easy to learn. Yes, Dan Cox, thank you. Yes, that is the person that I would recommend going to if you want to learn more about Twine. I learned it, I feel like, piecemeal, just kind of, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to go look up the documentation for the story format. The Twine forums are also a really good place. But this is Dan Cox's tutorials are nice because he takes you through a series of things.
Cool. Well, that's I'll put the link up here, guys. Let's see where my hand is. I'll put the link up here so you can just click on it and check Dan Cox out. But I think what you're saying is don't get hung up on learning a tool for the sake of learning it. Really try and think about what would be the tool that would be appropriate for this kind of solution. As even though certainly tools like Twine can help you plan any kind of learning experience. So it's great to just understand the basics of Twine because it's, it's like a visual mind map.
Mm-hmm.
Great to show a client, this is going to be the framework of the course, for you to go through it, especially if it's got some kind of branching scenarios. But I think everyone agrees you are very inspirational with your thought process. And, I probably before I met my wife, I was, I now don't have time to invest in myself because I'm always doing stuff for her. She's like, can you make me a logo? Can you do this? I'm like, I've created a monster. But I feel like I've lost a little bit of my my time to learn new things. I'm gonna get back into this. I think it's very inspiring. I'm gonna also show the little phaser. Have you got anything else in phaser on your website other than the adapt? I'm gonna go on to the adapt showcase.
I have a portion on my current website that that shows the games that I put in itch.io, and almost all of those are phaser games. One or two of them is in Construct 3 or 2.
Right.
But yeah, and to go back to a point you made earlier, I think one of the things that I've always encouraged newbies that talk to me to do is there's value in learning the authoring tools because the industry kind of expects that. But I think you don't have to. Like, you can make a good learning experience using a game maker like Construct 3 or using Twine. And it's really the design that you put into it that makes the experience. And so you don't have to get hung up on getting your Articulate subscription or getting your Lectora or whatever tool. So there's value in those and having that on your resume, but it shouldn't stop you from making anything.
And I mean, I went down the whole using Construct, and what was really nice about it is I was able to buy. So I haven't gone down phaser myself. I'm doing Construct 2 here. Construct 3, is it?
Yeah, 3 is the new version.
So I know that I've bought templates before, like a little platformer. And I just went in there and started changing some of the elements. And I have this conversation all the time with Troy Ashman about re-engineering products. So just going in there and working out, and that's it, isn't it, Kristin? Yeah. It's just about re-engineering. How the hell have they done this? And now how can I work out how to make my own version of this, especially when it's, these tools aren't just easy to jump in and build from scratch. You need to kind of be interested enough that you'll invest time to do tutorials, and you'll sit and you'll kind of go down a rabbit hole with it. And then you'll have a go either breaking down a template or starting from scratch, doing stuff. But these tools, certainly Construct in the community, I was able to buy templates and break things down from there. And you can get demos on all of these tools. You know, if you're in education as well, you can get discounts. So you've done
say
in both, haven't you?
Yeah, I'd say Construct 3 is an excellent tool. It's actually really, really powerful. And to your point, Cath, it's an amazing price point for someone who's trying to just start making things. It's much more affordable than your neighborhood authoring tool, but it also it's programming, but not coding. So you still have to think about the logic of the thing that you're trying to do, but you don't have to code. And again, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Just being able to think logically about what is it that I'm trying to do is something that Construct 3 is really great at. And as you said, the community is great, and they got a lot of templates that you can start from and reverse engineer in that way. So that's a great place to get started. Phaser.js, and like, this was another thing where I really struggled with, should I learn Phaser? Should I learn Unity? Oh, what should I invest in? And right now I'm using Phaser because it's at the intersection of game development and JavaScript. And JavaScript is something that I feel like I continually need to get good at. And it's something that helps with my day job. And again, like, we're all in web development. We're all in the web development business. So being able to build well in JavaScript, I think, makes a lot of sense. And so that's why I'm investing my time with that framework.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that Envato had some themes. The construct. No, it's not in Theme Forest, but I can't remember. You know, they've got like Audio Vibe, Theme Forest, Graphic River. It's one of those, but I'm trying to think which one. I don't know if they've got it in their footer. Certainly, it's not videos. Envato. You can go in, Code Canyon, that's it. So you can actually buy some really cute games built in Construct from here. Pardon me.
Bless you.
Where's games? Maybe it's probably where I was. I'm pretty sure some of these have been built in Construct. Yeah, I'm pretty sure some of them have. Let's see. Have they got overall best? Anyway, go down a rabbit hole of looking through some of these. You can buy them here, or you can buy them directly in Construct, and they look good. Like, they look really good. And you can go in and you can just change some little elements. And to help you understand the basics, I find the physics hard in games. That's what I really struggle with. But I mean, what's your recommendation? Where would you just, because I'm giving my point of view, Kristin, but what would you recommend?
I think one of the things that I was able to think about early on when I decided I wanted to get into game development was, what are the types of games that I felt like would lend themselves most to solving a learning problem? And there are companies now, there are probably a lot of companies now out there that kind of sell these little game templates for match 3 games. And little platformers and stuff like that. And again, those are fun. Those are fun to make. But when I think
Yeah.
about learning and the types of problems you would want to solve and the types of experiences you would want to solve, I would say they would mostly be games without physics. They would be visual novels,
Yeah.
point and click adventures,
Yeah.
interactive fiction. I feel like I had something else, but those were kind of my big things. Kind of drag and drop kind of games, RPGs. Now that will have some amount of physics. Role-playing games. I'm sorry, not to bury everybody in alphabet soup. So role-playing games. Those would be the kinds of things that I would be focused on, or that I am, in point of fact, focused on trying to figure out how to make. Because when I think about, if I had a learning problem, what kind of experience would I want to make? It probably wouldn't be a platformer. Yeah, I mean, maybe somebody can think of a way, or a match 3. Maybe somebody can think of why that would help. I can't off the top of my head. But when I think about, I could help someone point and click and have an escape room, or something like that. That's something that I want to learn how to build. So again, when the time comes at work, I can say, I can do that because I've done it before. And so that I would probably start from, what are the types of games that you want to learn how to build? And then I think what you said, Cath, go and look at what other people have done. There's so many resources, and Construct themselves have tutorials, they have videos, they have that community. So it's I won't say it's easy to learn, but if you can and are prepared to spend the time, the resources are there.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. It's focusing on what, if you're tuning in and you're working in schools, you might develop a very different type of game, like a learning game, that'd be very different from adults. That adults want to be put into a scenario and work through a problem. It's more of a detective, kind of process. But there's things out there that will inspire you. And even so, the whole point of the Learning Pro Live was to get people on like yourself, Kristin, to introduce the world as well to, I'm saying the world, like there's a lot of people viewing it, but trying to showcase some people out there who are doing some really interesting stuff, great stuff, and who aren't afraid to, get their hands dirty, just try new tools. Don't be afraid. There's so many tools that are out there. They're free. Yeah. So many tools to just go out there and try and create different experiences. We don't always, I think we're so hung up on this needs to be SCORM, needs to be on an LMS. And the fact of the matter is it doesn't. Only things that desperately need to be measured, you're having to and even that, if you've got XAPI, you can pretty much link that up with anything. Mm-hmm. Now we've got lots of comments again. Let's just see. My God. Okay, so Tara said, I've used Twine before. Sonica, where should you start learning Twine besides just jumping in? Okay, Ashanti. So I think we were up to here. I really like the storytelling. Do you use Sugar Cube or Harlow?
So I tend to use Sugar Cube because it's the easiest. With the way it's set up, it's the easiest to do. Integrate your own JavaScript with, and that's noted in the Twine community. So definitely Sugar Cube.
Explain what Sugar Cube is, please.
Yeah, so Sugar Cube and Harlow are two of the story formats that you can choose in Twine. And the story format decides kind of the base code for how the story is displayed. But they also have their own interfaces that you can kind of hook into if you're writing your own JavaScript. And SugarCube does a better job of exposing its internal variables for you to do what you need to do. So for example, Brink of Burnout is XAPI enabled. And I used SugarCube because I was able to say, okay, there's this internal twine variable that SugarCube is tracking for me. I'm going to go get that, and I'm going to put it in an XAPI statement and send it to my LRS. And that's much easier to do using the SugarCube story format than it is using the Harlow story format.
Amazing. Amazing. Okay, so Cara, what's going on? Is this frozen? Okay, Kristin, as always, raises the bar. Preach, it's always the design, not the tool. Construct is super cheap for a membership, it is. Should we start with Phaser or Construct 3 if we're new to programming coding? So we've covered that already. Currently building a course on video game development. Looking forward to checking out Construct 3, Phaser, and Twine. And eagerly taking all the notes. Escape room, exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, so, you know, I think we will wrap this up in a minute, but I think that this has been a great conversation. And there's, I mean, God, I could talk to you for hours about this stuff because you're a wealth of knowledge in this space. I really need to lift my game with JavaScript. I know I need to. I'm not very good at it. I kind of look for scripts that are out there, but manipulating them myself, I struggle a lot with, or writing anything from scratch. So you've inspired me. I'm sure you've inspired everyone else who's going to watch this video. I love what you're doing, mate. And I feel like you're in a space that I as a freelancer, I do have control over projects that I take on. There's work that I definitely don't want to do. I tell clients, I'm very transparent. No, don't want to do it. I don't think that's a very good. I'm from the north of England, and we call us, you know, we tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll be like, that's not a very good learning experience, you know. So I like having that flexibility to really look at what they're needing and being able to say to them, I don't think you need a course. I think you need this. And whereas it's a bit more restricted when you're working for a company, it's very hard to be told you have to do this, you have to do that. And like you said, I'm a night owl too. I only got up at 11 o'clock right before this.
Too. Yeah.
You know, like, I want to get up at 9 o'clock in the morning. What are you talking about? So I totally understand it. And I'd say the advice that you've given has been great and hopefully thought-provoking, even in your explanation of your demo of the burnout. It's what a lot of people are experiencing. But yeah, you know, we were speaking off camera, guys, before I wrap this up, you know, and we were talking a little bit about, I feel sometimes like the work that we do as a learning professional, we're kind of hitting our head against a rock. We're practically begging a client to, you know, can we do an analysis? Can we just make sure that this is the right solution that you need? A lot of clients, they think they know what they want. The L&D department have made the decision. This is what we want. This is the solution. We're having a course, and it's not the end. It's not the right solution. Whereas I think in web development, that process is appreciated a lot more, and that frustrates me. You know, I won't go too deep into what we were talking about, but I'll just say that it's great for you to go and explore, look at what's out there, get demos, try new tools. If the demo, you need a little bit more time, just reach out to the company and say, I'd like a longer demo, you know, and try and create something within a short amount of time. Don't just do the demo and just look at it for 2 seconds. Try and plan. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to invest a week. I'm going to try and build something that you can then put on your portfolio. And you know what? If you want to build something that is a fun platform game, that's fine as well. You know, it showcases your skill set. It shows that you're working in different tools. So if you're like, oh, you know, I can't see how I could, you know, if it's hard for you to imagine how to use some of these tools, just work under the just work with a template that you can understand how it works, you know. So just work, you know, you make the choice. But I love that Kristin showcases on her website all these different solutions. I think when anyone goes to your website, they go, wow, this person really has a good grasp of a variety of different tools and has a massive skill set. And I applaud you for that, mate. You're inspiring.
Thank you so much. Like, I really appreciate being here. I appreciate how you are continuing to work out loud. I find myself going in these phases of like looking out and then just, you know, folding it on myself and not talking to anybody for weeks or years. And so this is awesome. And I think the thing that I want to end on is that we are all trying to find where we fit.
Yeah.
And that's a process. And one of the projects that I would like to take on next is to create something to help people who want to get in of the learning space and even want to move around and get out of the learning space to understand what skills do I have and what do those things map to. Because I think that can be hard, Cath, as you were saying. It can be hard to figure out what is it that I'm doing, and also what is it that I want to do in the world. So if you think about learning experience design, it really has all of these various skills and competencies in it. And so if you were able to more deeply understand that what I have been doing is actually UX research, then you could not only start to think about that as a career pathway going forward, but you could also start to just tell people, this is what I've been doing and this is what I want to do. And so that you can do more of that. And so that is something that I've been inspired to make, because we're all just trying to find where we fit. We're all just trying to find, where can I do my best work? And I think being able to be really transparent on shows like this is really awesome for that.
I will put up Amanda's. I don't know why this isn't clicking. This thing isn't working. It's like having a meltdown over all these comments, I think. Amanda, fangirling. She's so funny. Amanda Newen. Everyone has really appreciated this. Kristin, thank you so much for your time. It's the end of the day now for you. You've got the full day Friday left. Hopefully you'll have a nice relaxing weekend. I'd love to have you back and talk about another topic at some point. Maybe do a demo of Twine together. You can show people how to kind of, maybe we'll get a little demo and get you to show how you can start putting little enhancements onto Twine. They might find that useful. So, but this has been totally inspiring. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
If you guys have final questions for Kristin, shoot them through now before we sign off. And but other than that, we'll wrap this up. And if people have comments or want to reach out to you, Kristin, I've put your details in the footer of the description of the videos, so they can reach out. And any questions, put them in the comments of the video, and I'll either try and answer them, or I probably won't be able to answer some. I'll flick it through to Kristin. Have you got any questions, Ashanti? Let us know. But anyway, thank you so much for your time. I'll wrap this up, and we'll talk again soon, Kristin. And thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody, and take it easy. Bye.